We want to wish a very good morning and welcome to B-Sides to the Proving Ground. This talk is The Struggles of Teaching Automation by Joe O'Connell. And just a few announcements before we begin. We'd like to thank our sponsors, especially our Inner Circle sponsors, Critical Stack and VolleyMail, and our stellar sponsors, BlackBerry, Secure Code Warrior, and Paranoids. It's their support along with our other sponsors, donors, and volunteers that make this event possible. As I said, the camera is live, all mics are hot, please mute your cell phones. As a courtesy to the speakers and those out on YouTube. After the talk, there'll be time for Q&A, hopefully. I'll wander around with the microphone, raise your hand, and I'll bring it over to you just to make sure that YouTube has the benefit of hearing your question as well as the response. Thanks, guys, and without.
So, hey, what's up, everybody? Just kind of want to do a mic check just beforehand. Everyone can hear me okay? I don't want to be talking too loud. Usually people yell at me for that. So I'm Joe O'Connell. If you have any questions about this at all, at JoGoFed on Twitter and Joe at JoGoFed if you want the slides for later. I'll re-bring that up after everything. So let's kind of get going. So a little bit about myself. So I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I currently work at Rally Health. I do security analyst work, and it's really fun. I'm also a Bolton Wanderers fan, and if you know what that means, yeah, we're very bad, but I still support them. And please come say hello at any point if you ever see me at any conference ever. I love talking to people. I love meeting new people. It's really one of my favorite things to do, and the security community has really helped teach me how awesome everyone is. So just please come say hello. All right, so a little bit about what this kind of talk is more about. It's kind of about how I built this study group and how we kind of taught each other how to learn how to write Python. And it was a really, really fun project to do. So one of the big things that we had to convince or kind of talk about was buy-in from management. So one of the problems that we kind of started to notice in our security operations was that we do both access requests, so like identity and access management, as well as we do security analyst work, so anytime that there's some type of alert that goes off. So our company started growing at double the rate that we were expecting. So when I started about a year ago, we were about 800 people, and now we're about 1,600. And that really put a burden on us in terms of focusing more on identity and access management over the security analyst work, which both are very important. So we needed a solution to figure this out, and one of the solutions was to teach as many people as possible how to write Python to automate a lot of the access requests that we're doing. So at the beginning of this, the first thing that we kind of decided was the biggest thing to get past was to get time for everyone to learn. And in order to get time, you have to talk to management and figure out how to get time in order to actually learn on the job, which is very hard because a lot of people are like, go learn on your own, and that's very, very difficult, and it's just, a lot of people are burned out in this industry, so it's something that we were trying not to do. And the other thing that we kind of wanted to do was a repeatable process so that we can redo this every time that someone's onboarded and kind of go through this again, which that's very difficult, and we're still kind of trying to figure that out just because of all of the things that we learned, but it's been a very fun project, like I said. So some of the things that we were kind of trying to do was align everything up together so that everyone was on the same page and everyone was kind of going for the exact same goal. So we set a yearly goal for our entire team to all of us learn Python. So there's about 12 of us on the team that wanted to learn Python. Of those 12, 3 of them had some type of training in some other language or at least had some understanding of code. The other 9 did not. So I'm included in the other 9. So it was a lot to go learn, but we tried to do it together, and it was a lot of just pushing each other as we were kind of going through this process. So with aligning goals as well, we did individual quarterly goals of we want to get this far, as well as kind of converting those quarterly goals out to yearly goals, which are still kind of going on today. And it's been kind of really fun too, because we didn't just say only people from my security team can join this. Actually, we allowed anyone to join. So we had some people from IT join us. We had some people from coaching, which was really, really fun. And actually, one of the coaches is here today, so some of her code will be presented. So it was a lot of fun. So the goals of our program, kind of like I said, was to teach everyone Python, and then converting old bash scripts that we had that were written by someone who had left the team to Python and then to create a sustainable learning program. So the bash scripts that we had were really good because they succeeded, but there was no documentation on it. We had no idea what was actually happening, and we kind of had no idea to edit them if anything changed in our environment, which our environment changes all of the time. So we were focused on that at the beginning, and it kind of helped create a convertible way for us to take something that we learned in Learn Python the Hard Way, our program that we're building, and convert it into something that we are doing every day and actually making it feel like we were successful and doing something and not just like wasting anyone's time. And this right here was actually like an interesting problem to face, just because at the beginning we're like, oh sure, like we can just easily fix all of those bash scripts, like that doesn't look difficult. And we're 6 months in, I guess, and we've converted about 3/4 of them, but I feel like they kind of need to get farther along. So hopefully we can finish that by the end of the year. So how the program worked was a weekly study group during the day, about an hour long. And basically what we tried to do at the beginning was just go through all of Learn Python the Hard Way and kind of go through that together and continuously push forward. We were kind of struggling with motivation with that, and then also just making sure that everyone knew what was going on and how to do it. So we kind of wanted to do more like problem solving and figure it out that way. So we started focusing more on LeetCode. LeetCode is a website that gives you problems that you can test out or try and kind of solve on the website, and then it gives you the solution at the end, or you can look at the solution if you get stuck. We obviously were trying our hardest to not look at the solution, but we had each week individually, we would have a LeetCode example that we would send out to everyone that they would try to solve, and then come back and show off what they did. So that was kind of one of the things that we did. The other things that we kind of focused on with both Learn Python the Hard Way as well as just overall the structure was kind of something called show and tell. Show and tell was really fun, and I'll probably get into that a little bit more at the end, just because that's kind of more of like a success that really happened. And then another thing about applying knowledge in real life, it was actually very difficult for us to find simple enough problems for us to continuously grow as like software, I guess, software engineers. I guess that's not really what we're going for, but continuously grow our skill set of writing Python and code. So some of the short-term stuff that we kind of encountered. So the way that I'm describing short-term is something that we deal with on a weekly basis. So something that it was something that was very difficult, but it was an ongoing thing that was just very difficult and trying to do. First thing that was very hard was keeping people to attend. So at the beginning, kind of talking about aligning goals a little bit, one of the goals for a lot of people was just to attend this study group and continuously grow throughout the year. So we kind of kept track of who is attending, and then how often they're attending, and then kind of showing where their progress is. And that was working for a while, but eventually it kind of petered out when we started getting more and more busy. Finding time during the day was also very, very difficult. So when we were going through this at the beginning, we just had an hour a week to teach automation and then kind of go from there. But then what we figured out was that was not enough time to learn at all. So what I did next was grabbed 2 more hours during the week, so that we at least had 3 hours during the week to actually sit down and try to write code, which was really great. It helped a fair amount more, as 3 times more time to do anything, you'll learn much faster. So it was definitely it was definitely worth it. Participation was actually very difficult. One of the things that I really focused on in this study group was to have everyone involved and everyone kind of talking. With show and tell, kind of the thing that I've mostly focused on was whatever you do, just write something throughout that week, bring it to show and tell and do it, and just kind of show us and talk through what's going on in this script and act like no one has any idea what anything is. That actually helped a lot. So that helped in terms of actually understanding what's being written, as well as making sure that people didn't just go to Stack Overflow, copy, paste, and print something. Because a lot of the time people will do that and have no idea what the Stack Overflow does, the code from the Stack Overflow does, and it makes it really difficult to learn actually how to write and program. But it was really, really fun to see everyone participate and like grow into participating, because everyone at the beginning was really shy and very quiet. Eventually, more and more people started participating, and it made it a lot more fun. And then partner coding was actually one of the harder parts. So our offices currently, there's 5. We're across the nation. So we have DC, Minneapolis, Chicago, Las Vegas, San Francisco, and LA. And we were really struggling with trying to teach everyone across the states, I guess. And one of the things that we noticed was that Visual Studio Code has an application built in where you can do partner coding basically through it. It's Visual Studio Live. And that helped a lot, but actually what helped even more was doing the Visual Studio Code live as well as with a Google Hangout, so that you could do both the live coding and kind of talking to each other at the same time. So that was super helpful, and would definitely recommend doing something like that. So more on like solving attendance, like I said, one of the things that we kind of focused on in solving the attendance problem was like we were trying our hardest to make sure that it was worth going to, which a lot of the times that was very difficult. But one of the things that we wanted to do was like just kind of do a weekly like event and kind of try to push and make it more fun and make it more of like a less structured thing. So we never had like managers or anything go, just so that it was more of like a calm, relaxing, like we're all here together learning situation. And then the other things, like I kind of had mentioned before, was like creating an environment of participation, even if like sometimes that meant talking to someone beforehand and just being like, hey, I'm going to call on you, make sure you kind of have something to do, just so that everyone kind of understood that like everyone should try to be participating and trying to kind of push it through. So some of the long-term problems that we kind of faced, and like I said, the long-term problems were something that were more just difficult things to deal with throughout the entire process as well, was motivation. So at the beginning, we try to tie motivation to our quarterly and yearly goals, which tied to bonuses eventually, which was very, at the beginning, like I said, also kind of helped and worked. But right now, kind of midway through the year, it's kind of slowed down a little bit, because I think everyone's kind of forgot about the yearly goals. So we're kind of trying to refigure out the motivation right now. And that's been very, very difficult, and something that I'm still trying to figure out and solve. If anyone knows how to solve motivation, please let me know, because I'd love to know. And then, like I kind of mentioned before, like finding problems to solve, which I thought that was going to be the easiest thing to do, just because there are so many different problems that you can look at and be like, oh, you can do that. But then like breaking that down and kind of understanding how to break those problems down as like writing programming is very difficult, which I had no idea going into this, that looking at a problem and being like, oh, this needs to be broken down all the way down to like a little baby can understand, basically. And that was just very, very difficult, and something that, yet again, we're still kind of learning, and I think we've gotten a lot better at, but it's something that we're kind of working on as well. And then finally, like the different skill levels were very difficult. So like I said, we kind of had 3 or so people who were very, very good and had like learned how to write some type of programming language. So we leaned on them a lot to kind of help us throughout this process. But we did have some people who had never touched any programming language ever, and some people who had never really been in IT or had messed around with any type of deeper computer like learning, I guess, in terms of like outside of the PowerPoint and generic things. So the skill levels were very vast, and that's, I think, what made it a lot of fun as well, just because everyone's kind of talking and figuring out different problems that they're facing and then working together to figure it out. So, some of the other things that we kind of did to like solve those problems were tying motivation to goals, like I mentioned, and then using LeetCode was actually, like I said before, was really, really helpful. LeetCode has a easy, medium, and hard mode, and what we tried to do is we tried to find 4 or 5 that people would start out on. So something like something like really easy, something just like a loop or something along those lines of just kind of showing like, oh, this is kind of how you do the first original program that you're writing. So like a little bit a little bit more than Hello World, but something like less than a massive program. And that's kind of what LeetCode did. And then there's like the medium and the hard sections, which also were very difficult as well. But the medium section, I think, was kind of where you finally understood how to go from just writing small scripts to something a little bit bigger and having an understanding of how data flows a little bit. And then lastly, being encouraging to beginners was actually a very, very important thing, because writing code is very intimidating, especially if you have no idea where to start, and not only that, but so many people have so many different answers on where to start and where to begin, even from the language that you start with to what books to use to everything. So what we were just trying to do and try to push across was to understand that everyone learns a lot differently. Everyone in this study group actually learned a different way. So what worked best for me was actually a Udemy course at the end, and that's kind of the thing that worked for me. For some people, the Learn Python the Hard Way worked a lot better, and that's kind of something that kind of solved that problem. Some people did automate the boring things, and I think the biggest thing that I noticed was that at the beginning I thought, oh, we're going to have this very defined study group, we're going to know all of these things, we're going to do this, this, and this. And then I realized that everyone is different, and the only way to solve that difference problem is to let them figure out how to solve it. And that also kind of leads back into how to motivate these people, how to motivate anyone. And I think a lot of the learning how to write code is you just have to sit down and do it, and you have to motivate yourself, regardless of what that is. So that was a very, very fun and interesting problem to solve. I guess it's not solved, but interesting thing to deal with, and it's something that we pushed through. So a little bit of the show and tell that we did. I'll show a little bit of some of the code that we wrote, but some of the show and tell that we focused on and did was was more on their specific job set. So, for instance, in IT, one of the problems that one of the people were facing was that people would come up to them and just be like, hey, I need you to do this thing. And he would be like, oh, go make a Jira ticket. But the person would never make a Jira ticket. So he had to figure out a way to solve that small problem. So what he did was he decided to write a small little Python script that basically came up and popped up a little text box. And he wrote down two words that said make ticket for this person about this thing or something. And basically just kind of anytime that happened, he did it, made a note onto his desktop, and that's kind of how he solved the whole Jira issue. So we did that show and tell, and that was a really, really awesome thing to show. One of the things that I did for show and tell was an EA. So I'm a big FIFA soccer fan, so I really like FIFA, the video game. And actually, FIFA has an API that's kind of hidden, I guess. I had to search and figure out where it is. It's not on GitHub or anything. So I play this game called Pro Clubs, and they have data online. So what I started to do was grab that data online, kind of convert it into a dictionary so that I could use it, and then display it to my friends who were playing. Really, I just kind of wanted to show that I scored more goals than all of them, but it was enough motivation for me to do it. So I had a lot of fun. So kind of going through some of the scripts that we built. So the one on the left here is the script for my friend Doug, who is doing the Jira ticket issue. And then the one on the right here is mine. I do want to kind of point out that it says FIFA 17, but I'm not playing FIFA 17, just to clarify. They just haven't updated their API since FIFA 17, but it's the same data, or it's the newest data. So if you're an EA, that'd be great if I could get your API. Let me know. And then some of the other code that was written actually by Mia, who's actually here today. So she wrote a little port scanner, and she is actually currently looking for her first security job. She was one of the coaches that was here. So if you have a entry-level security job, you should go talk to her. And she really worked hard and learned a lot. So so please go say hi to her. That'd be great. So what should you take away from this? And one of the things I kind of want to let you guys know is I think that it's easy to start a program if you kind of just say I don't know what I'm doing, and that's fine, but let's try to learn this thing together, because that's kind of what I did, and it seemed to work somewhat well. And a couple other things I kind of want you to learn is how would you get buy-in? And I think the best way to get buy-in from any business section would just to talk about return on investment, right? When you're sitting down and you're talking to someone who maybe isn't thinking about security all the time, you have to talk to them more about business and talk to them about how to what return on investment you're getting from using this time, which was a very easy thing when you're saying, well, we're hiring 800 people in a year. Wouldn't you like that to be automated? Because then we can actually focus on more security things, and we can get more money from not just giving access to things, but focusing on the security aspects, which is what you more care about. And like that was kind of like the big sell, and like kind of what I would focus on when you're trying to start some type of program. And then aligning goals. Aligning goals was very important. I know it seems like the aligning goals kind of stopped midway through, but I think that we're going to try to do another push and just kind of remind everyone of like what's going on. And it also helps that everyone's on the same page and trying to go for the same goal. Anytime that you have two goals that are trying to be accomplished and they're maybe not competing, but they're the same goal, they usually fail because there's not enough resources going to one of those goals to make it succeed. So focusing kind of like on aligning goals and how to get buy-in from upper management is probably the best way to go. So I have about 5 minutes left or so. So I'm going to take questions. And looks like, yeah.
Hey Joe, did you consider any of the tools like Puppet or Ansible or Chef as opposed to Python when you were making your choice?
Can you say that again? Sorry.
Were you considering any automation tools like Puppet or Ansible when you started in this journey?
No, we did not. So the big one that we were focused on was Python, just because one, a lot of our company already used Python, so it was something to kind of keep us all like maintained together and make sure that we were all on the same page as well. And then also, a lot of the systems that we were giving access to were, you needed to use either like a web GUI or something along those lines beforehand. So we hadn't looked into Ansible or Chef or Puppet.
So almost as important as the language itself is, how did you teach debugging?
I didn't. So I guess I'm going to say that I did not teach debugging because I have no idea. One of the things that we, so yeah, I don't have an answer for that, and I'm sorry. Yes, Nest project. Learn how to do that. Thank you.
Were you able to find any mentors from like the software engineering side of the house to kind of help you get over some of those early humps and sort of train and coach the team?
Yeah, I did. So actually, luckily, like I said, the three people who kind of had some background and understanding, they really helped mentor and helped teach at the beginning. And then what was actually really awesome is they kind of like took a step back and only came in when they felt like they were needed, which is really great because it kind of kept this nice, like we're all learning and like no one knows what they're doing until we're really stuck and we have no idea.
I have two questions. One for Python the hard way. What did your like syllabus look like? Was it like a week we would do 2 chapters? And then the second question is, did you guys consider any other resources like Code Academy or any of that other stuff?
Yeah. So at the beginning, we kind of kept it like go at your own pace type of situation, which was a little difficult because at the beginning of Learn Python the Hard Way, I don't know if anyone's used it, you can run through like the first 15 in about a week because they're all very like learning how to print and you're just kind of like going through the motions, which is really good fundamentally and it really needs to be done, but it's pretty quick to be done. And then in terms of like looking at other things, we didn't look at other things until we started to notice that not everyone was like loving Learn Python the Hard Way, and we try to solve that problem. I know a couple people did use Code Academy and are using it now to like learn. So I think all resources should be looked at, especially for individual people, just because whatever that person likes to learn, I think is the best way.
Cool. What steps were you taking to make sure that the code that you were putting out there was kind of adhering to security best practices and to make sure that, you know, those common pitfalls like committing code with API keys and stuff wasn't happening? Yeah,
so actually one of the other teams is we actually worked with a little bit of our application security team to make sure that our code was actually fine. That was actually a very difficult thing to learn at the beginning because I had no idea how to actually do that. So learning how to actually have an API key like hidden so that you could actually like reach out to who you need to was definitely a difficult process, but really fun to learn. But to answer your question, we work with application security.
All right, guys, that's all the time that we have for Joe here. I'm sure he would be happy to take questions out in the hallway if you see him around, but let's give him one more round of applause.